So welcome to the Osteoarthritis Action Alliance Lunch and Learn for October 19th, 2016. My name is Kirsten Ambrose, and I wanted to thank you all for joining us today. I'm pleased to introduce our presenter, Paul Jones. He's the manager of the National AgrAbility Project through the Department of Agricultural and Biological Engineering at Purdue University. Mr. Jones has been an AgrAbility staff member since 1998 and manager of the Breaking New Ground Resource Center since 2000. They've been developing award-winning educational resources. He's also managed grants from the NEC Foundation of America that allowed for the distribution of assistive technology resources to every county extension office and Future Farmers of America chapter in the U.S. He also manages operations for collaborators from Purdue, Goodwill of Finger Lakes, the Arthritis Foundation Indiana chapter, and the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Just briefly, the National AgrAbility Project seeks to enhance quality of life for farmers, ranchers, and other agricultural workers with disabilities so that they, their families, and their communities continue to succeed in rural America. Today, Mr. Jones will tell us more about the National AgrAbility and Arthritis Foundation partnership. Welcome, Mr. Jones.
Well, thanks very much, Kirsten. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today at the Osteoarthritis Action Alliance. I've been learning more about your group as I've been preparing for this presentation today, and it looks like something that we would like to be more involved with, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the presentation. But I appreciate you joining us today. Just in general, for today's presentation, I'm going to be focusing more on transmission of information rather than research. I know many of your group are involved in research. This is going to be more on the level of the extension type work. So I know many of you are also involved in universities, and you're familiar with the different roles that universities play, research and education and extension. This will be definitely focused on the latter. Many of you may not be aware of what AgrAbility is or what we do, so I'm going to share a little bit about our history and our mission, and also the importance of partnerships. It's kind of unique with our grants, and so we'll talk about that, and also what we've been doing in the past and will continue to do with arthritis issues, specifically our history with working with the Arthritis Foundation. And also I want to make you aware of some of the resources that we do have currently available that might be useful to you or to the people that you work with. As Kirsten indicated, AgrAbility's primary mission is to address issues of disability in agriculture. And some of the ways that we do that, again, are through developing educational resources, doing trainings, and also providing direct on-farm assistance. We have staff members that go out to farms, make assessments, make recommendations for either worksite modifications or technologies that could help somebody with a disability continue to succeed in agriculture. However, I think it may be a little bit misleading when we talk about disability, because when we say disability, many people have a preconceived notion of what we're talking about. Probably a more realistic term would be functional limitation. Not everybody we deal with has a disability that would rise to the level of, for example, what the ADA might consider a disability. And many of the people we deal with don't consider themselves to have a disability, especially in the realm of arthritis and things like back impairments, joint issues. They just see that as part of their life, part of their consequences of their work. But to throw out the term disability sometimes either turns people off or makes them think that we can't help them. But we do deal with a wide spectrum of issues that would fall under the realm of functional limitations. So on one hand, we might have somebody that's got arthritis that makes it difficult for them to climb up on their tractor. On the other hand, we might be dealing with somebody that's got quadriplegia, who needs significant assistance in any type of mobility issues. Amputations are not uncommon for farmers, either because of on-farm work or other things. We don't just deal with physical disabilities. We deal with people that have post-traumatic stress disorder or other mental behavioral health issues. Many of the people we work with have a disabling disease that might be something like multiple sclerosis. They might have respiratory issues, traumatic brain injury. So a wide range when we're talking about functional limitations. Within that, arthritis is one of the most prevalent issues that we see in dealing with our AgrAbility clients. It's always within the top 3, often either first or second. Back impairments and also other joint injuries are usually with arthritis in the top 3, and obviously those can also involve arthritis too. When we look at the secondary cause of disability among our clients, arthritis is usually the top thing listed. So clearly a big issue among agricultural workers. Some of the issues specifically related to agriculture that might contribute to arthritis pain. Agriculture often involves a lot of lifting. Excuse me. So many of the people that we deal with may not know proper lifting techniques. That could contribute. Many of the tasks in agriculture can be repetitive. Farmers, particularly at a younger age, might tend to jump off their equipment. If you're not familiar with farming equipment, often the lowest step on a tractor or a combine may be 16 to 20 inches from the ground. And that's designed that way to keep it from dragging when you go over rough terrain or hilly terrain. So there's a big step there. Farmers and ranchers can incur traumatic injuries from livestock, from working with equipment. And sometimes they have to work for prolonged periods on hard surfaces like concrete. That's particularly prevalent in the dairy industry. And what you see in terms of pictures on that screen are both from the dairy industry. The person on the left is transporting some milking units in a stanchion barn. And a stanchion barn is where the cattle are on the same level as the workers. So that means that the person milking must squat or kneel or bend over to attach those milkers. In this case, he's using assistive technology to keep from having to actually physically carry those milkers, but often that's the case. He's got a track that transports them that he's using, but many times it's simply just lifting those milkers and transporting them between the cattle. On the right, you see somebody dealing with hoof care for a cow, and so that obviously involves bending over, squatting, and again, he's using an assistive device to help with that, but sometimes farmers may have to undergo that type of a task without a frame like that that helps them lift the cow's hoof. So obviously some issues that could aggravate arthritis pain or contribute to arthritis. I talked about disability and functional limitations being a wide continuum, but agriculture also is a wide continuum. Depending on where you live in the country, you may be thinking of agriculture as corn or soybean farming, like we see a lot here in the Midwest, or wheat, cotton in the South and the West especially. You may think of ranching or other livestock development. Dairy is obviously a big industry in certain states, but we're also seeing a growth in things like small-scale produce with the local food movement. Orchards and nurseries are a part of agriculture. Agritourism can be part of agriculture. That could be somebody that runs a corn maze or a pumpkin patch. There are also people that raise flowers as part of an agricultural enterprise. Aquaculture would be fish. Hydroponics is the raising of produce without the use of soil in some kind of another growing medium. And aquaponics would be raising both fish and produce in a symbiotic system. There are all kinds of other niche markets. If you can think of it, you can probably grow it. So, herbs and alpacas and all types of things. So AgrAbility deals with wide spectrums both in the disability and the agriculture realms. We began officially in 1991 when funding came through for the 1990 Farm Bill. At that time, there were 8 AgrAbility projects, and currently there are 20. And you may ask why there are not 50 or more for each state and territory, and that's simply because of funding. There's just not enough money. So all AgrAbility projects are awarded through a competitive grant process. I will show you in a second who has those. We at Purdue here actually began before AgrAbility. We started in 1979, and it had some specific targeted initiatives toward arthritis issues beginning in the 80s, which I'll also mention here. In addition to the state projects, there is one national project, and we support the state projects and also provide some limited services to people who live in the states that don't have AgrAbility projects. So you can see here a map of the currently funded states in yellow. The states in lighter gray are called affiliate states. That means they previously had funding and either did not reapply or lost their funding through the competitive process, but they continue to provide some limited services through other funding sources. The darker gray either have never had an AgrAbility project or lost their funding, didn't reapply, and don't continue to provide any services. And this map and contact information is available on our website, which I'll mention here in a minute too. So I talked about the importance of partnerships. Each AgrAbility grant requires a partnership. The grant is always held by the land-grant university in the state, and in the northern states there is usually one land-grant university. In the southern states, and especially in the southeast, there are 2, and Alabama actually has 3 universities that can hold a grant. And they must partner with at least one nonprofit disability services organization. And part of the thinking is that we get agricultural expertise through the land-grant university and disability expertise through the nonprofit organization. So here in Indiana, both with the Indiana AgrAbility Project and the National AgrAbility Project, the Arthritis Foundation has been one of our partners, specifically the Indiana affiliate, over the course of 3 decades. Currently, we're not engaged in a subcontract with the Arthritis Foundation, but we are continuing to collaborate with them. So history in terms of what we've done, the first arthritis and agriculture related resource came out in 1985, and you can see that the red pamphlet on the left was called Arthritis and Farmers, 20-page little pamphlet, covered a variety of basic issues related to arthritis and agriculture. In 1989, there was an audio-visual presentation. You might call it a video. It was actually, I think, more of a slide tape set back in that day before the advent of VHS and DVDs and at least the popularity of those medium. So that came out in '89, and then in 1993, that original booklet was revised to include farmers and ranchers related to arthritis. Now I want to share a little bit in terms of what's available now, some of the more recent things that we've done. All of these resources I'm going to talk about are available on the agrability.org website. And again, as I mentioned when I showed the map, contact information for each of the state projects and affiliates is available there. You can download our resources. Most of them are in PDF. And we've also done webinars ourselves. We've done about 52 that we've got archived on our website. So if you go to the online training link, you can find those recordings, and the PowerPoints are normally linked there too. Several of those, I would think about at least 8 of them have dealt with arthritis. It could be arthritis and gardening, or arthritis and livestock production. So a variety of arthritis-related topics are there, so feel free to check that out. Of course, we do have news and upcoming events, and within about the last 9 months, we've moved our website to a mobile-friendly format. So if you have a smartphone with you and type in agrability.org, you should come up with a screen that looks very similar to what you see on the screen right now. And the little hamburger menu up in the top left of the screen will get you to the links for the other areas of the site. One other website we sponsor through AgrAbility is the arthritis-ag.org website. That was established through the Arthritis Foundation here in Indiana as part of our AgrAbility funding. Right now we're transitioning from the Arthritis Foundation managing that to the National AgrAbility Project managing that. So it's in a little bit of flux right now, but please feel free to check that out, bookmark that, and we will plan to get that updated and have current tips on there in the future. So resources available now. By far the most popular resource we've ever produced related to arthritis and agriculture is simply called Arthritis and Agriculture. We've printed 90,000 copies of this booklet over the years. We've distributed many of them at farm shows, conferences, very popular with farmers. It's about 24 pages long, and some of the topics that we include things like how to get a diagnosis, a proper diagnosis, what type of exercise would be useful to somebody in agriculture, stress management, and other tools and technologies and worksite modifications that might be useful. So feel free to check that out. It is downloadable. We did a version of that for old order communities. We have many of them in Indiana, specifically the Amish and some old order Mennonites. So many of the principles that were carried in the original Arthritis and Agriculture booklet were carried over to the plain facts about arthritis booklet. We adjusted some of the photos and some of the technologies we talk about to fit the old order culture. But again, many of the principles are identical in terms of the carryover from the booklet, first booklet. We then started thinking about how we wanted to address the Spanish-speaking population. We collaborated with the California AgrAbility Project and also the Arthritis Foundation in California to decide what type of format would be best. And we came up with this Spanish language photonovela. If you're not familiar with that format, it's highly pictorial. It has limited amounts of text, and if you looked at it, you would probably think it was similar to a comic book. But in consulting with California groups and others that dealt with migrant and seasonal farm workers, they felt that this would be probably the most readily accepted format for conveying the information we wanted to about arthritis and agriculture to this community. So again, I will not try to pronounce the name in Spanish, but the English version is Could Arthritis Be the Cause of My Pain? We do have an English translation available for those who would want to see what it is actually saying in English if you don't speak Spanish. Along these same lines in terms of communicating information, we did a 17-minute video called Gaining Ground on Arthritis. Again, many of the principles that we included in the previous booklets, but in a video format. It is available on our YouTube channel, and if you go to the agrability.org website and click on the YouTube icon, you can get to the YouTube channel easily. And again, many of the same principles that we talked about in the other publications. The most recent version, or the most recent publication that we've done, is Arthritis and Gardening. This has been a topic that's been very popular among people we collaborate with. We have a lot of groups like master gardener groups that want to know about accessible gardening. Gardening is one of the most popular hobbies in the United States, and arthritis is the most prevalent disabling condition. So the intersection of those two can create quite a need for knowing about arthritis and gardening. So this was produced just this year. Again, about 24 pages long, covers a wide range of topics, starting with pre-planning. You know, if you have arthritis, what should you think about before even laying out your garden? Should you think about, you know, raised beds or something like that? What other tools might be helpful for somebody that has arthritis that's involved in gardening? Things like stretching exercises, other things that you might do to minimize discomfort when gardening. And that was very popular. Our pre-orders were about, I think, 18,000 from the state projects. So again, that's downloadable. You can order any of these in bulk too. There is a charge for, you know, if you wanted to order 50 or 100 copies, we have to charge for the printing and the shipping. But we try to keep that as low cost as possible. It's just not only the national project that does resources. The Missouri AgrAbility project also did an arthritis-related resource targeting migrant seasonal farm workers, a curriculum called Let's Talk About Arthritis. You see on the screen the cover of the flip chart, and they used a flip chart format for giving presentations to this audience. It's very useful in that you flip the chart over and the audience sees the graphic and minimal text, but on the back, the presenter would have basically a script to go through. So it's very functional in terms of, you know, not having to memorize an entire presentation. You can basically read the back of the flip chart while you're giving the presentation. So that's available through the Missouri AgrAbility Project and also the National Center for Farm Worker Health. In the future, we're planning to release a curriculum targeting high school age youth involved in agriculture, heavily focused on preventing arthritis. So we hope that will come out within about the next 3 or 4 months. You can check back to our website on that. Back issues, as I mentioned, are also a big issue and can involve arthritis. So we produced a resource called Back on the Farm, Back in the Saddle. That talks about things like proper lifting and other technologies and strategies for minimizing back pain. Again, the importance of getting proper diagnosis and the medical options available for back issues. I also wanted to mention our assistive technology database. This is on our website also, called the Toolbox, and we've got about 1,250 different products in there. We don't sell any of them. We provide information, and all of them are, we think, would be useful to somebody that has some type of functional limitation in agriculture, including arthritis. I would say probably 90% of them are not specifically designed for somebody with a disability, but they can simply be useful to somebody that has a disability. For example, an automatic hitching device, so someone doesn't have to keep getting off and on a tractor to hitch up their equipment. They can simply back up, it automatically hitches to the wagon or implement, and they can take off and don't have to get off and on the tractor. Again, for somebody that has arthritis issues, climbing up on that tractor can be a major chore. Things for transporting loads, other assistive devices. So we've got, you know, all kinds of agricultural tools. We've got even lawn and garden tools, gardening tools, outdoor mobility tools. So I would encourage you to check that out. Here's what you would probably find under one of the categories in our toolbox. This is a sample of a fact sheet. I know you can't read it probably, it's been condensed there, but just to give you an example of how it looks, we give a description of a particular product. We talk about what types of issues it could help accommodate. Then we provide the supplier's information and an approximate cost. So this is an add-on tractor step. If you look on the right, the original step on that tractor is actually the second one. So that bottom step was the added step to make it easier to get on. So you can see the original step, again, was probably 18 to 20 inches from the ground. So that's why things like these added steps can be useful. And the toolbox is full of technologies like that. So just thinking to the future, again, I'm learning more about your group, and it definitely looks like a good fit for AgrAbility. We hope to continue to collaborate with you. I'm looking at options for working groups and those types of things, and we definitely want to make sure that we advertise the things you're doing, like these webinars and any other activities you come up with. But I would encourage you, if you have ideas, also please feel free to email me or check on our website. There's a contact form there. I would be glad to consider collaborating with you, individually in your organizations, and again with the Alliance as a whole. So at this point, that concludes the main part of my presentation, and I would turn things back over to Kirsten, and we can go with any questions that you have right now.
Well, thank you very much. That was extremely interesting. Certainly a world that, for myself, I'm not very familiar with. So I'm thinking, as you're talking about all kinds of different considerations for people who are in agriculture, and in the beginning I was thinking about physical activity, and then when you presented the booklet about arthritis and agriculture, you had listed among the things it addresses is exercise. So I'm sort of curious, certainly welcome folks to enter in questions in the chat window, but while people are thinking of questions, what are some of the considerations for exercise? Presumably many people in agriculture are already physically active by nature. So what types of things do you suggest for exercise?
Right, that's one of the things we mention in the booklets, is that if you tell a farmer they need to exercise, they'll tell you they exercise all day, but often the type of exercise that they're getting may not be beneficial to dealing with arthritis issues. It could be that they sit in a tractor for 8 hours or something during the planting or the harvesting season, and they're being active, but they may not be, again, engaging in the type of exercise that would be beneficial to them. So in some of the publications we talk about the importance of exercising for weight management. Obesity can be a big issue in the farming community. The importance of stretching and warming up before engaging in physical activities. Some people may be baling hay or something like that, and if they're doing small square bales, that can be a lot of lifting, but they may not be warmed up and ready to twist their body like that. So they need to know about things like cardiovascular exercise that they may not be getting. They may be doing, for example, again, a lot of lifting, but that can even that kind of exercise can even be detrimental to their dealing with arthritis issues.
Well, I think you do have some great resources, and I think we should definitely talk offline and figure out how we can share some resources across our organizations. We can certainly post a few of yours on our own online resource library, and you mentioned just now obesity. We have some brochures and things that might be useful for some of your folks. So yeah, I think this is great. We would love to connect, and we're at about our half an hour for the webinar, so I'm certainly welcoming anybody chatting in a question, but in the meantime, I just wanted to say a quick thanks to anyone who has to sign off right now for joining us today, and I'll post in the chat box our next month's webinar. So I do want to thank you, Mr. Jones, again for presenting today, and we will definitely connect offline.
Okay, thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next month.